Hey, Stoney here. I'm with Clinkley Wood, and this is Mechabellum Tournament. At the bottom here, we have Odyssey playing as an aerial specialist, and he's up against Amarok, a very popular streamer playing as a supply specialist. Starting on round one, what do you think, Clint?
Well, I mean, this is, I think, our first communal video talking about the tarantula, or at least featuring the tarantula. I This unit's been growing on me, and I think it's a very strong first round pick, especially into something like Sledgehammer Brawler. I feel like it almost requires the other opponent to go marksman, but then you run into the issue, right? If you're playing crawler sledge. You don't really have great chaff clear. I think sledges can kind of do it, but it's not the best. How do you feel about the opening drafts here from each player?
Um, I think the jury's out here. I'm not entirely sure. I think I'm slightly leaning towards Odyssey's board just because I don't think Amarok's got enough damage to take down these two tarantulas before the marksman gets everybody
Yeah.
else. But yeah, but the tarantulas are the only chaff clear, so maybe. I mean, they're pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like they trade pretty favorably into sledgehammers. It's the unit kind of chews them up, and yeah, right now you see it, right? Especially when it's backed up by a marksman. Oh,
Yeah, this
it's
is
fall over.
yeah, it's not gonna work here. Um, so I've been playing against tarantulas. I've been trying to figure out like what's the best way to get tarantulas, and surprisingly, marksman is not my best, not my first pick. If I were to play against tarantulas, stormcallers would have been my first pick. They're
I
just so
completely agree.
potent. Like marksman, like a single marksman takes what? 23, 16. That's like 8 shots times 3 seconds. That's like that's 24 seconds, and the game is only 90
A third
seconds
of the
long.
round, yeah.
That's a third of a round just shooting nothing but a tarantula. Whereas a stormcaller gets a tarantula in 2 volleys, I believe. Um, a bit of variability because of the randomness of the missiles, but stormcallers are really good against tarantulas.
Yeah, so if you were to like play a comp into tarantulas, what would you be leaning into? Would it be just like mainly Stormcallers, or is another supporting unit you would like to throw in?
At the early rounds, I'll just probably chop up and do Stonecallers exactly like what
Hmm.
Armorok's doing here, right? See, he
Yep.
took the free triple Fang unit drop and dropped 2
Hmm.
Stonecallers. In the later rounds, I'm going to start putting forts up front,
Yep. Yep.
or I can use my own tarantulas because
Yep.
they like once they start shooting each other, they take forever, so no problem
Yep.
there. Super curious with Phoenix. I think it's just there to take advantage of the fact that there's, well, at least until the fans didn't have any anti-air, but now that the fans are in, as long as these tarantulas are dead before the fans, we should be in a good spot for Amarok. The
Yeah, and
Scorpion,
I think
though.
yeah, I was gonna say I was actually gonna bring that up. I think Stormcallers is such a great pickup here, and it's like a little unfortunate that Odyssey goes for the Scorpion here, because you can just look and see, right?
Yeah.
The Stormcallers on the left are going to kill this Tarantula,
Yeah.
almost kill the other one,
Yeah.
and drop the Scorpion.
Yeah.
And then, as long as there's these fangs, there's always the present of killing these phoenixes in the air. Evasion doesn't matter when you can shoot up. So yeah, I think this was a great heads-up play by Amarok, right? That triple Fang opener is such a, or rather, the round 2 drop triple Fang is such a strong, like round 2, and I think so because of the amount of stuff you just get to place on the board, right? It's just you can't beat it. It's 5 deployments on round 2, right? This is crazy. And then,
Yeah.
Odyssey goes for a much more conservative play, and the Scorpion, not nearly as many deployments. And, I think deployments are king, though, but that's a personal preference. How do you feel about deployments overall, Stoney?
Before I talk about that, let's just talk about the cards real quick.
Oh, sure. Yep.
I think lots of great cards. Extended range end up being taken by Amarok, but I was thinking the mass-produced forts could also be extremely deadly. Not only they're very tanky once you get them with the technology, because remember, mass-produced forts do just as much damage to your HP as their regular forts, and they get the same benefit from technologies like shields or punch, right? I love playing mass-produced units, but he did end up taking extended range Vulcan, which is curious because it seems like Odyssey's boards is going to be filled with these high-level single unit model um, units or high HP units. So I'm not sure if he's going to get a lot of value out of the extended range Vulcan.
I think ER Vulcan's a meta read. I think Vulcan with the most recent buffs is in a spot where if you are playing Vulcan and you get ER Vulcan and you click Scorch, I mean, that thing's a giant killer at that point. I know, so I've ran into his circle on the ladder a couple times. I believe his name is Salt Monkey. You may be familiar, but yeah, he got me with ER Vulcans. ER Vulcan, range, Scorch, and my army fell over. So I wonder if that's what Amarok's play is too. And if you look at it, right, his army's like pretty well positioned for it, right? He's got Stormcallers, he's got Phoenixes, and then we get the old tried and true Vulcan Phoenix combo that it was, you know, the bane of a metagame many ages ago.
And I think you're right. Right now, I don't think Odyssey has anything that answers directly to an ER Vulcan if one drops down. Like in fact, right now he's really struggling just to go through the Stonecallers. I think this might be some ammunition to the Stonecallers OP crowd.
You know, it's interesting, right? Because with the removal of Phoenixes in the opener packs, I do think Stormcallers as an opener draft has become much stronger. I think there are still drafts that beat it, but like I used to disregard Stormcallers, but now I've been playing with them a lot more, and I feel like they're in a better spot, and the unit already felt like pretty good. So, yeah, there may be some ammunition there. Honestly, I'm not sure.
But it's entirely Odyssey's fault, right? Because he's got a board. I mean, he's got, you know, chaff, but his main carry units are slow moving, single high HP units, and these are the things that the Stormcallers really excel at. He is trying to switch out of it, being aerial spec. The Scorpion is gone, but it is now dangerous because there's no real damage coming from Odyssey's boards. Yes, he can probably clear out the chaff relatively well, assuming that this tarantula stays alive. But beyond that, he doesn't have anything to show for it to get through these sledgehammers, now extended range, and also the line of Phoenixes.
Oh, Amarok went extended range sledgehammers. Yeah, so Amarok's just going to be playing keep away, right? He's going to be playing at his tower, saying, come get me, walk at me, and I'm going to kill your whole army many times over. And if you look, right, even his fangs are perfectly positioned for this idea of a Vulcan right in front of the tower. So I really love what Amarok's doing. I think, I like I said earlier, I think this is like a really strong meta read right now. I think Vulcan's in a great spot. Maybe a little too pushed, honestly, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I mean, like, look, right now you can see this like game of keepaways is really putting in work. These marksmen are having to walk across the battlefield to take pot shots at these Phoenixes.
And the ER Vulcan's not even on the board yet. Like Amarok is just winning with whatever he has. Now, if you're Odyssey, what would you do to improve this board right now?
Oof, that's a really tough one. Honestly, I think in this sort of scenario, right, if your opponent's playing the range game, you have to lean into Stormcallers yourself. I don't think there's another way to answer sort of what's going on. Similarly, right, if you look at the chaff positioning, these vertical fangs would basically get deleted in the first volley. So that would remove some of the, chaff that's slowing down your other units that are trying to do their job. But honestly, I think there's a world right where I think even spider mines might have a little bit of a place on the battlefield here, but not with two tarantulas, right? That'd be something you're working towards from round two. So it's hard to say. How would you improve it?
Absolutely agree with the Stormcallers. I think you absolutely nailed it, Clint. Right now, and I've been watching this Stormcaller. I think Amarok was he sold this one and then bought back the Stormcaller, put it back exactly where it was, and now repositioning it. But I think if you watch the battle unfolds, you notice there will be a very long time where most of Amarok's units are just right here. I think having Stormcallers with the potential of going Firestorm later, just to get rid of fans, the crawlers, everything is sort of in this vertical space. It's going to be really good.
But we see that Odyssey elects to go for this idea of AA fortresses, which, like, to his credit, makes sense, right? If your opponent clicks the range button on Phoenixes, AA forts is a classic answer in response. However, that used to be the case and may no longer be the case. I mean, they're still doing work, let's be honest, if we're looking at the board. But Fort AA recently was nerfed. It lost 10 range, making, I believe, a Phoenix outrange it by 10.
Phoenix right now with range is still 10 less than a
10
fortress.
less?
But if they take temp range, they will be 5 more.
Gotcha.
So a little bit of play there, because before your Phoenix would never catch up to the Fortress A, even with extended range. So a little bit of play here.
Looks like Amarok's probably going to go for some Saber Cash here.
Saber Cash. With the ER Vulcan and also with so much ground suppression, I wouldn't be surprised if you just want to go Overlord.
That's where my head was kind of at too. This idea of like, oh, I mean, you can shoot my Phoenixes if you want, but I'm gonna have 2 Overlords in front of them to tank. I was thinking about that too. But yeah, here you see, right, ER Vulcan into Scorch, and I think this is where Amarok's comp is like fully online. Actually, Amarok sells out of a Phoenix, so maybe he isn't going for the Vulcan Phoenix comp.
Yeah, I really hope that Odyssey goes for Overlord and start adding things. But instead, he went for the Typhoons. Typhoons, they are tanky, but once you get levels on this Vulcan and possibly item in the future, these medium-sized units just melt in seconds.
Oh, yeah.
And the only thing that's going to be saving them is shields from fortresses, but he's already got leveled Stormcallers in great positions.
And with your advice, I just checked Amarok's text on the Vulcans. I do see Ignite present, so I know that would make you happy. And yeah, while there's more fortresses than Vulcans currently, I think the Vulcans are going to do a lion's share of work here. Let's see how this round turns out, though.
Yeah, we're in round 6. I think starting at round 7, he could potentially go for a double tech with range and ignite after selling maybe a pack of Phoenixes. And at that point, the Vulcan is going to outrange Vulcan. I mean, even right now, without ignite, it's taking down level 2 Vulcans left and right.
Yeah, I mean, those fortresses are just melting, right? Just falling over.
But this round's going to go to Odyssey due to the lack of anti-air at this point.
Oh, but saves himself a lot of grief and a lot of damage. Only taking 200 here. Anti-air is fixable.
I think Odyssey is still in the back foot here. I think he needs to crawl back into this before he gets vastly outscaled by Amarok's ER Vulcans right here. All right, we sold the Stormcallers as now we have enough to really just start attacking these Vulcans. Amarok is sitting at 2,000 supplies. So he has more than enough to double attack this. And you don't want this Vulcan to level. Once they level to like level 3 with range and with ignite, nothing can stop it, right?
Yeah,
There's
game's over.
Yeah, game's over. There's a video on my channel where I was going War Factory against Sparty's ER Vulcans, and I had like level 3 War Factory. Still getting destroyed by his level 3 Vulcan. So that's just how good it is.
Yeah. And then we see Amarok going for Exodia here. We have the ranged melting points backing up the Vulcans.
Mm-hmm.
People call this Exodia, at least in some streamer communities that I follow, because once it's like kind of assembled and fully online, it just kind of kills you, and there's not a whole lot you can do against it, it feels like.
So one of the counters. So let's talk about possible counters for Odyssey against ER. EM is always a great counter, right? Any sort of EM, you can do EM marksman. Just click the button and disable. But until you're able to do that, shields is also a great counter against ER Vulcans. They do a lot of damage, but they don't do a lot of damage to a single target fast enough compared to a thing like a Melting Point. Which is what makes Melting Point such a great complement to the Vulcans. Not just because they're there to kill the giants, but they're there to break the shields.
Absolutely. Yeah, so outside of that, for counters, I've had some success, like you mentioned, with EM and electromagnetic sledgehammers. In that scenario, it was ER Sledge into ER Vulcan, so there's a bit of a caveat there. But it looks like Amarok's about to just close the game out.
Mm-hmm.
Too many giants on the board, just walking down. Yeah, Odyssey has been destroyed.
Yeah, I felt like Odyssey never really had a chance in this game. He's really being just trying to survive starting on round 2. But no, it was a great game played by Amarok. He had a vision, and he built on that vision with tempo, turn after turn, and now he's got the Exodia.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, I hope you enjoyed this game, and I will see you on the next one.
Prepare your tactics. Mechabellum's calling. Deploy your fortress. The battlefield's alive with swarms.